For most of history, when you pictured war, you thought about battlefields, right? Land, sea, air. But here in the 21st century, the rules of conflict have completely changed. The front line has moved from some distant, secret landscape to the one we all carry around in our pockets. And to really understand how this happened, we need to jump back to a pretty specific moment in recent history.
So our story kicks off in a time we all remember pretty vividly, the 2016 US election. Now, this wasn't just another political contest. It actually became the stage for a totally new kind of foreign interference, one that wasn't fought with soldiers, but with social media posts, with memes, and with highly targeted ads.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The Senate Intelligence Committee was incredibly blunt about the problem. This wasn't some passive campaign. No, it was an active, deceptive operation where foreign operatives literally pretended to be Americans to manipulate conversations on a massive, massive scale.
This kind of strategy isn't even new. It actually has a name: active measures. It's a term that comes straight out of the old Soviet playbook. For decades, it meant things like forging documents or planting fake stories. But today, as that Senate report lays out, it means weaponizing social media to hit the same old goals in a brand new way. And this is key. While the election was the backdrop, it wasn't really the ultimate target. The real objective was way, way deeper. The campaign was specifically designed to find the fault lines already present in American society, on race, immigration, gun rights, and just hammer wedges into them to push people further and further apart. And just look at the sheer scale of this thing. I mean, at first, all the reports were focused on $100,000 or so in Facebook ads. But that was a drop in the bucket. The real workhorse of this campaign was the free content. 10.4 million tweets. That's an industrial-scale operation. It's designed to just flood the zone, not just buy a few billboards. So how in the world did they pull this off? Well, the group responsible, a Russian organization called the Internet Research Agency, or IRA, had a very specific digital playbook they were working from.
Yeah, researchers have a name for it, the Firehose of falsehood. See, it's not about convincing you with one perfect lie. It's about completely overwhelming you. A massive volume of messages coming at you across every platform you can think of. Facebook, Twitter, you name it. And it's so fast, so continuous, that it just becomes impossible to tell what's real. The whole point is to make you feel passive and maybe a little paranoid. And this chart illustrates their main weapon perfectly. Of all the divisive topics they could have picked, what did they hone in on? Race. The Senate report found that over 2/3, more than 66% of their Facebook ad content was explicitly related to race. It was without a doubt their #1 tool for creating division. Now, what's really fascinating here is that this wasn't just a simple pro-Trump, anti-Clinton operation. Not at all. The IRA also went after other Republican candidates like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio. Experts cited in the report say the goal was basically to sideline anyone from any party who held views that were adversarial to the Kremlin. This all feels so modern, right? So public. But was it always this way? Has this war for information always been fought out in the open, on the platforms that we use every single day, targeting regular people like you and me? Well, to answer that, we actually have to hit rewind. We're going to go all the way back to 1946 and look at a recently declassified document that lays out a completely different set of rules for a very, very different kind of war. So this document, it reveals a secret agreement between the UK and the US, and it describes an information war that was fought not in public squares, but in the deepest shadows. This was a conflict entirely between governments, and its most important rule was absolute, total secrecy. The weapon of choice in this secret war was something called cryptanalysis. And as the document itself defines it, this is basically the art of breaking codes, of turning an enemy's secret messages into plain, readable text. The entire focus was on what other governments were whispering to each other in secret. So the rules of this game were crystal clear. Allies would work together to intercept and decode the communications of their enemies. The battlefield wasn't a social media feed. It was encrypted radio signals and secret cables. And the target? It wasn't the public's opinion. It was the state's secrets. Simple as that. This just sets up an incredible contrast, doesn't it? On one side, you have the quiet, meticulous work of the codebreaker. And on the other, you have the loud, chaotic work of the internet troll.
it is truly a tale of two completely different wars. Okay, let's just break it down side by side. It's pretty stark. In 46, the goal was to steal government secrets. In 2016, it was to tear society apart. The battlefield shifted from encrypted signals to public social media feeds. The weapons changed from code breaking to disinformation and trolls. And here's the most important part. The target changed from the state to the citizen, to you.
The entire paradigm has just completely flipped on its head. We've moved from a secret war fought between spies over intelligence to a public war fought by trolls and algorithms for your attention and for your trust.
And this brings us to the unavoidable conclusion, to what this new reality really means for all of us. Because information conflict is no longer something that's just happening over there.
The war isn't happening in some remote intelligence agency anymore. It's not in a listening post out in some desert. The front line of modern information conflict is your phone. It's your Facebook wall, it's your Twitter feed, it's your YouTube recommendations.
And that leaves all of us with a really critical question. In this new kind of war, where the battlefield is our own minds and the ammunition is information, who's actually responsible for defending that front line?